So, hello everyone. Today I'm going to present literature and environment reading through an eco-critical lens. Academic information, table of contents. So, my research question is how do contemporary literary texts viewed through eco-criticism represent a human nature relationships, and how do these representations reflect a cultural, ethical, and a socio-political perspective on the environment. My hypothesis is the contemporary literature reflect the growing awareness of ecological crisis and the human impact on the environment, demonstrating that storytelling can serve as a tool for environmental advocacy, ethical reflection, and fostering a deeper connection between readers and the natural world. So, introduction, eco-criticism is a lens that allows us to see literature not just as art or a storytelling, but as a reflection of our environmental consciousness. Through poems, novels, and essays, writers conveys attitude towards the nature. In the context of climate change, biodiversity loss, and environmental degradation, analyzing the literature eco-critically is more urgent than ever. So, what is eco-criticism? So, eco-criticism is a mode of literary criticism that examines the relationship between a literature, culture, and the natural environment. So, Charlie Glotflet's classical definition, the study of the relationship between a literature and the physical environment. It emerged in the late 20th century, often in interdisciplinary, bridging ecology, philosophy, and cultural studies. Looks at a cultural, ethical, and ideological representation of a nature. So, historical development and its roots. So, early roots in Romantic poetry, Wordsworth, and transcendentalism are thorough. Formal term eco-criticism established in 1990s. Formation of ASLE, Association for the Study of Literature and Environment, in 1992. Growth into environmental humanities and subfields, ecofeminism, material eco-criticism. In today's eco-criticism spans multiple approaches, including a feminist, post-colonial, and a material perspective, reflecting the complex intersection of culture and environment. Its key concepts and the theory. So, eco-criticism examines how literature portrays the relationship between humans and the environment. It distinguishes anthropocentrism, which centers human needs, from a biocentrism and ecocentrism, which values all life forms. So, concepts like nature, wilderness, and landscape are explored as both physical spaces and cultural ideas. The framework emphasizes the interconnection, showing how human and ecosystem are interdependent, and highlights eco-justice, which addresses the ethical responsibility towards the environment. Eco-critics also challenge the nature-culture divide, analyzing how text reinforce or question the separation between a human society and the natural world. Approaches and themes. So major approaches include a deep ecology, ecofeminism, post-colonial eco-criticism, and material eco-criticism. Common themes in a literary text include a human, non-human relationships, ecological degradation, regeneration, sustainability, and a sense of a place. Eco-critical readings focus on how literature represents these interactions, emphasizing both ethical and cultural dimensions. Example and application. So, in Romantic poetry, Wordsworth, and contemporary novels, Richard Powers' The Overstory illustrate human engagement with nature. Ecofiction, cli-fi, and nature essays reflects environmental concerns across time and genres. Eco-critical analysis examines imagery, metaphors, and narrative voices and silences, revealing the ideological and ethical messages embedded in a text. In recent years, literature has increasingly reflected ecological concerns, with authors exploring themes of environmental degradation, interspecies relationship, and the human nature connection. Studies like eco-criticism in contemporary English literature and eco-criticism in literature examining nature highlight these shifts, showcasing how modern narratives depicts nature as a dynamic force and emphasizing the interdependence between a human and the environment. So these works challenges a traditional anthropocentric storytelling, offering a fresh perspective on ecological issues. In a contemporary authors, eco criticism, Amitav Ghosh, The Hungry Tide, and Gun Island, it dwells into the complexities of climate change, migration, and environmental justice, particularly in the context of the Sundarbans and the Bay of Bengal. His narrative often explores the intersection of human history and ecological transformation. Second is Arundhati Roy's The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. Roy waves environmental concern into her storytelling, addressing issues like nuclear policies, dam constructions, and the displacement of the communities, highlighting the intricate relationship between the politics and ecology. Daniel Mason, North Woods. Mason's novel offer a unique perspective by narrating from the point of view of various non-human entities, such as the insects. So this approach challenges anthropocentric narratives and provides us a platform for a non-human voices, aligning with eco-critical interests in a non-human agency. So Alexa von Mosner, affective ecology, empathy, emotion, and environmental narrative. It explores our emotional engagement with environmental narrative. Aranyani, an Indian eco-woman poetry book. So it edited by Sonali Sharma and published by Noel Lawrence. In this, we found that powerful anthology that gathers 44 eco poems from women poets across India. It is rooted in ecofeminism through sections like nature's elements and woman is a parallels and the calls of Mother Earth. This collection raises an urgent question about development, sustainability, and culture resilience, aiming to give voice to eco women who often remain unseen. So, in contemporary relevance, modern English literature increasingly reflect an ecological consciousness, portraying nature as an active presence rather than a silent background. The article Eco-criticism in a modern English literature highlights how writers use literary expression to reveal the interdependence between a human and the nature world, urging readers to adopt a more sustainable and ethical perspective towards the environment. Contemporary writers engage with themes of environmental justice and eco-activism. The rise of digital eco-poetics expands environmental expression through multimedia and online platforms. So, this Aranyani, an Indian eco-woman poetry book, is a eco-poetic genre. At the same time, indigenous and post-colonial environmental narratives challenge a Western perspective, emphasizing a harmony, reciprocity, and a cultural respect toward the nature world. So together, these stands reveal how modern literature becomes a space for environmental awareness, ethical reflection, and a global solidarity. So in conclusion, eco-criticism reminds us that literature is not separate from the environment, but deeply connected to it. Through stories, poems, essays, writers help us to see a nature as a living presence, one that reflects a human responsibility, culture, and ethics. In the age of the Anthropocene, reading eco-critically is both an intellectual and moral act, urging us to imagine a more sustainable ways of living with the planet. Here is my references, and thank you. Now you are free to ask questions.
Devangini, my question is, how is eco-criticism different from just studying nature in literature?
So, yes, eco-criticism is not just describe a nature, but it connects or shows a relationship between a human and a nature. Through we can see one book or one literature work, we how it changes our view of nature, and also to save a nature or our planet.
So Devangini, my question is, why are contemporary authors focusing more on environmental issues?
So contemporary authors are focusing more on environmental issues because of real problems like climate change, pollution, and deforesting. Their work are helping us to show these problems, and also it helps us to take a step towards save our environment and our planet. Thank you.